with dad, with my daughter, or things that have happened. Do this summary. During the week, we've been talking about vulnerability, and we want to talk about the journey from vulnerability to superhuman. And during the week, this create a baseline of your genetics. What does your genetic tell us? It tells us the susceptibilities with regard to your health. Things that you inherited from your mother, from your father, right? We all know that the mitochondrial DNA is a maternal inheritance, but our cellular DNA is from both parents, and we know that most illnesses start at the cellular level and in the mitochondria. Why do we separate the mitochondria from the cell? Because they're actually two different things. Even though they live together, they actually have very, very separate functions. So we do your genetic analysis. We also do your blood analysis. We use Boston Heart Diagnostics, which is a very detailed, comprehensive blood test. And Anti-Fragility Health, you're going to see our brand ambassador, Una, is going to be talking about walking you through her experience of doing that test. And even though she's, I think, 29, but it was very interesting that she discovered some fascinating things about her health. Considering that, like my daughter, she thinks she's very healthy. And when she ran her blood, we found some very interesting things. We're also going to run her urine and her stool, and that's going to provide us some real comprehensive issues with regard to understanding what's really going on. So our diagnostics, no other place runs those kind of diagnostics, because healthcare, most people who have insurance, their care is centered around sickness. The care is not centered around prevention. We are centered around prevention, and prevention is the critical focus here, and therefore a very comprehensive baseline of the biological terrain allows us to understand the very complex architecture and signals, strong and weak signals, that our biological system is emitting. And these signals would be shown in your urine, in your stool, in your blood, in your saliva, and all of those diagnostics comprehensively gives us an understanding of what we call mapping of the biological terrain. That is our most big advantage that we offer here at the clinic. And for anybody who wants to travel from vulnerability to superhuman, you need to understand that terrain so that you know what the strengths and weaknesses are and the opportunities. Again, around the diagnostics, we know that all of us living in the world, by the 7 big things that cause chronic illness. And what are those big things? Number 1 are infections. Every time you suffer from an infection, it lowers the probability ability or the vitality of the terrain. Every time you have an allergy, every time that you mold or things infect you, every time that you are not eating optimally, you don't have the optimal diet, every time that you compromise your health by not exercising or reducing the toxicity that comes into you, all those things impact all of us because we live in the world. And in the world, all these things are present. Except you travel around in an oxygen bubble, or you are not in contact with air, water, and food, then you might say, I'm fine. But none of us is. And therefore, the biological terrain and understanding what's going on in the biological terrain is our most important first step. That is the key value that we offer as a clinic. Now let's talk about the step again. Just remind you, this journey is from vulnerability to superhuman. What's the most important next step is the mapping of that journey. You need to understand the journey. And the journey is a very challenging journey for everyone. Why? Because you have to learn the game and you have to understand the rules. Say you were trying to play tennis. It takes a long time to become a good tennis player. There's a reason why. Because you have to learn the game and you have to learn the rules, and it takes a lot of practice. So there are 4 transformational levels on this journey to superhuman. There are 2 first foundational levels where you are learning the game and the rules, because there's so much to learn about your biological terrain to understand cause and effect in that terrain. And the second last steps are called mastery steps. And those are steps where you're optimizing and personalizing. So you understand the basic rules, then you optimize and personalize. So those are really fundamental steps for you to understand the roadmap to health. If you compromise, you win. If you compromise, you pay the price. And now it takes us to the third step. What is the third thing that we offer as a clinic? We offer coaching. Everybody who wants to get to the top needs a coach. Why do we need a coach? There's a big reason, because we all lie to ourselves. Most of us don't have integrity. What has integrity got to do with getting to the top? Because to get to the top, it's not an emotional issue. It's an issue based on fact and reality. If you don't do the 20 repetitions, if you don't do the crunches, if you don't sleep 8 hours, if you don't eat the right diet, the price, you pay the price. A coach holds you responsible and accountable and provides guide and support and access into the community. So a coach, to support you achieve integrity and authenticity, are really fundamental issues. But you know, this journey to superhuman is not for everyone. It is only for people who have made a choice and take a stand to be responsible and accountable for their health. We're not looking for every customer. We're not looking for everybody to become our patients. We're only looking for people who already are awakened, people who understand that this is critical for them to have a great life, to have a long and healthy life, and to be superhuman, so that even when they're 60, 70, 80, 90, they can still perform. You can see examples of the woman who at 83 was dancing at America Got Talent, and she was somersaulting and swinging. Most of us at 50 behave already as if we're too old. That's a choice. If you want to be old at 50, that's your choice. Some people at 90 don't want to be old. So again, it comes down to personal choice. What do you want? And being superhuman, is that something that you desire, and that's something that you want to stand for and fight for. So it's really critical. So let's talk about number 4. The number 4 area is that we personalize everything that we do here. We've created an intervention model. And this intervention model doesn't treat everybody as an individual, but treats everyone separately because we come specially designed, right? Even though 99% of what we have is similar, we're also very, the biological terrain is very different. Some people already at 25 already have significant issues. Some people at 60 don't even have metabolic issues. Why? Because research has looked at centenarians, people who've lived above 100 years, and have found out that they're actually very special people. What is the average age of how long people live here? People live in, globally, the maximum averagely is around 70 to 80 years. So the people who are living 100 and beyond, and Dave Asprey is talking about living up to the age of 120 and beyond, even to 180. And a very interesting book because it begins to really look deeply at some of the issues that you could be doing and fixing in your life rather than be arguing with me. You know, a lot of people come here and start arguing as if the question is the argument. The question should be what kind of life you want to live. So again, let me go over those 4 things, and then I talk about some comprehensive issues around immunity, our immune system. Our immune system is a critical response mechanism that it came with our biological terrain, and it is primed, and we can build superhuman status around our immune system. So let me go over the 4 things again. So we do the biological terrain. What's the biological terrain? It's this body that we came with. We want to do a mapping, and we want to understand the status of it, right? So very important that we understand the biological terrain. And secondly, we want to show you the roadmap. How do you get from vulnerability to superhuman? And third, we want to talk to you about coaches, why you need a coach, and why, with dealing with the coach, we can address issues of integrity, authenticity. Most people don't have integrity. Most people don't even understand what integrity is. So let's quickly talk about these 2 big words that I use a lot, integrity and authenticity. Number 1, what is integrity? Integrity is keeping your word. Most people don't keep their word, even to themselves, right? I'm going to lose 20 pounds before Christmas. If you don't lose 20 pounds at Christmas, then you don't have integrity. The second part of integrity is, if you don't keep your word, how do you restore integrity? So if you don't have integrity with yourself, you actually cannot have integrity with others, and you cannot have integrity on the journey to superhuman. The second part is authenticity. Most people are fakes. Most people don't show the real self. It's all hidden under a lot of nonsense. Why? Because we want to look good. We want other people to like us. We want to give the impression that everything is fine, even when we're dying inside. So when you're not authentic, then we can never really support and coach you appropriately as to where you need to go and what the underlying weaknesses are that we can address. And the final one again was, remind me, the personalization of our interventions. So all the interventions that we do here are deeply personalized. So let's look at your immune system. We have God-given architecture for defense and response. Our immune system doesn't go out to attack. It's not an army that attacks. It's an army that defends and responds to the attack. That is the immune system. And that immune system has two big parts. It has what we call the innate, that's the inherited immune system. And that immune system is optimized when a child is born normally. Children who have come out with cesarean have a compromised immune system because their microbiome, which is really the conductor of the immune system, is not optimized if they don't come out through the vaginal tract. So it's a very important issue in building innate immunity. Adaptive immunity, which is the second part of immunity, most of us get that from childhood, from vaccinations. So we are vaccinated, and then we start building some adaptive immunity to measles, to mumps, to all those different illnesses that used to plague us. So we build this adaptive immune system. And I'm not going to go into the deep biochemistry of the immune system or the immune cells, but it is really important that over time, the innate immune system, which also is on us, the skins of the surface of our body, all the entrances or openings in our body, it creates the first line of defense. When that first line of defense is broken, then the second line of defense steps up for the big fight. Most of the immune cells die in that fight. They are killed. They commit suicide to kill the attacking bacteria or viruses. So it is a very, very challenging fight. And that's why typically the body will raise the temperature, because in raising the temperature, it really enables the body to really focus to that fight so that we can bring the temperature back again and get the body back to health. So a fever, which is part of the cytokine storm, is a response by the body for that big fight that is going on. So it's a very important issue. We understand the innate immune system and the adaptive immune system. So that is the defense architecture. So how do we then apply the four things that we do here at the clinic to build a superhuman immune system? So number one, how are we going to know whether you have a weak immune system? Typically, we can find that from a lot of different things. We can see that from the number of innate and adaptive immune cells, whether they're escalated. If they're escalated and there is a lot of inflammation, then we know that you are suffering from there is a weakened immune response. So how do we optimize your immune response? We optimize your immune response by ensuring that you have the nutrients, critical nutrients, vitamin D, vitamin C, zinc, selenium, and all the other minerals and vitamins that are critical for keeping the immune system in order. But that is not enough. On top of that, you also have to be emotionally calm, because stress suppresses the immune system. Lack of sleep suppresses the immune system. Lack of exercise suppresses the immune system. So the immune system is optimized by a lot of different things that are critical for you. So what is that roadmap? So we can do an assessment of the biological terrain. You know, a lot of people say to me, oh, I get flus all the time. You are very sick. If you are susceptible to being sick all the time, that is a big sign that something is wrong with the biological terrain. Next step, let's look at the roadmap. If you want to get your immune system from where it is today to having a superhuman immune system, requires training. And that roadmap, like I said, begins with foundation, understanding the game of the immune system, and the rules of the immune system. So let's talk about that a bit. One of the biggest areas where bacteria accumulates in the body is in the mouth. And most people do not have good dental hygiene. They don't brush their teeth, they don't floss twice a day. And so bacteria, over 500 different types, and they are the bad bacteria, accumulate in the mouth. That's a first sign to show that you have a compromised immune system, bad dental hygiene. And how would you know that? You have dry mouth, and your mouth smells bad, and as I tell my daughter all the time, your tongue has a white coat on it. Means you have bad dental hygiene. And so that's the number one issue. You want to reduce what we call the bacterial load. I know people have been talking about washing your hands, not touching your face, wiping your ass, taking a shower. All of that, hello, is to reduce the bacterial load. But what's the point washing your hand if your mouth is bullshit? What's the point? The bacteria you swallow about 5,000 times a day. So why is bacteria a problem? Bacteria is a problem because ultimately it's the bacteria that kills you from any attack. The virus weakens the immune system and the bacteria says, whoa! That is why people die from pneumonia and from other illnesses which are bacterial-driven illnesses. Really important, people don't die from viruses. They die because their immune system has been weakened and then the bacteria attack. So reducing the bacterial load is a critical issue. And what's the second way of reducing the bacterial load? Is balancing the microbiome in the gut by taking probiotics, by eating fiber, right? Those are very important things, and enabling proper digestion by using digestive enzymes. So all of that allows the immune system to be happy. Wow, we have nutrients, there's exercise, there is no stress, we are getting all the things that we need, we are not overwhelmed by bacteria, therefore our immune system is trained and ready. But for some people, they want to optimize the immune system. So they take things like, they increase their optimal nutrient for zinc or selenium or vitamin D. You want to put yourself at a vitamin D status where you're at optimal levels. That way, what does it do? It does the two things that we have spoken biologically a lot on this, on a lot of our videos. What is number one? Physiological resilience. What is physiological resilience? You can win at the first attack. You have enough force in your immune system to beat off any attack. You know, almost 2 or 3 times a week during COVID, in this last, I wake up with an itch in my throat. And the minute I do that, I up my vitamin D, my zinc, my selenium, and vitamin C immediately. And I realize I have to exercise, I have to sleep better, and I have to really make sure that I build up my physiological resilience. But on top of that, I have to build my metabolic reserve. My metabolic reserve is required if the attack is going to be a sustained attack. I need to pull from the reserves. So if you're taking care only of your resilience and not taking care of the reserve, then if it's a long fight, you're going to lose. Because I don't know whether I walked into this room this morning and there were 1,000 million COVID-19 viruses flying around, and and they're like, finally, we're home. Then my immune system goes on to the attack, right? And this fight is raging, I'm sweating, fever, and then there's asking for more resources, and they're like, sorry, we don't have any more resources. And then it's like, oh, Charles is going to need ventilator, right? Because they look for more resources, no T cells, no B cells, you're beginning to go, right? That's the way it works. So you want to make sure that you really build your physiological resilience and your metabolic reserve. That is critical for that journey. So you want to create the proper foundation and build mastery around that. What is the third thing that we then do is that we coach you, right? You need a coach to help you because it's a complex. God created a very complex architecture, right? Sometimes I even forget. Do I take my digestive enzymes? Did I take my probiotics? Did I eat enough fiber today? Did I sleep well? Did I exercise? How is my stress level? Right? So many things to manage. And a coach helps you keep you on track because it's really difficult to manage all these things. It's a lot of things to manage. On top of your big house in Irvine and your big car and your big family and your big life, life is very, very complicated. I remember when I was in the village, life was very simple. We didn't have a car, we walked to school, life was easy. Today, life is really complicated. That's why most of us are sick. And finally, we personalize. Not everybody comes with the same immune system. And not everybody responds to attack in the same way. And so you need to find out optimally what works for you and then optimize and improve. Because every time you go to a different environment, you are encountering different kinds of bacteria and viruses. Every time. Every time you drink water in the restaurant, you're getting new bacteria. Every time you eat different restaurant, you get different bacteria. Every time you come into a different office, every time you shake somebody's hand, every time you kiss, you are consuming so much bacteria. I'm not saying you should not kiss, but I think before you kiss, you should go brush your teeth and reduce the bacterial load. So you're giving me only a little bacteria, not too much. Because too much, one if my system is overwhelmed, you kiss me, now I'm dying, right? So really important, guys, that we do personalization around that. Yes, is there a question?
Yes, so is there such a thing as good bacteria, or is that just when you keep your bacteria load low?
There is good bacteria and there's bad bacteria. But all bacteria that is in the body lives in what we call symbiosis. What is symbiosis? We need them. That's why children who don't have any bacteria, they get sick very easily. Why do we need bacteria also? They help break down our food, right? And they help train our army of the immune system. That's why they give you vaccination. The vaccination is live cells. Then they go in and they fight and they train to build your adaptive system. So the good bacteria are the ones who are commensal. They're friendly. They do good things to us. But unfortunately, the good bacteria are weak. They are beaten by the bad boys. So every day, you need to take more good ones, which is mostly the lactobacillus. You have to take good probiotics every day to replenish because they are being killed by the bad boys. And once the bad boys become overwhelming, you have that thing we call dysentery, where you go into the bathroom and you have to turn the music loud so that people don't think that we got the orchestra in the bathroom playing some brass bands, right? Right? And really blowing up the toilet, right? And then the toilet itself is like, what happened? Right? So that's when the imbalance happens. So the body gives us a signal by us having dysentery. So if you're always having dysentery, it means there is a real serious bacterial imbalance. And if that persists, it turns into some really big issues, and ultimately with colorectal cancer. So cultures There's some cultures, like Asian culture, where most people there's a lot of the high incidence of colorectal cancer. And it's because they eat a lot of fermented food, and some of it is not good fermented food. And so if you're going to eat fermented food, you need to make sure it's good quality so it doesn't cause this imbalance in the bacterial architecture, because if that sustains, then it's going to become a big problem. It's inflamed, and those inflamed cells are susceptible to a lot of different things. So, okay guys, we've spoken today about the journey from vulnerability, all those people who cry on TV, to superhuman. I got it. Have a good day. Love you.